Hello and welcome to What's the Story Ghost. I'm your host Annette.
And I'm Steven.
And today we are on episode 77. Steven. Actually, I should apologise if you hear dogs or birds in the background. It's because the office is hella warm today. So we have the window open and I don't know how to drown out background noise.
Ask me again what episode we're on.
77.
Stairway to Heaven.
Okay.
That was not a great one. But look,
is that a bingo card?
Ah, it is today.
No. Crack on.
Crack on.
I sing the twins to sleep at nap time 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes they don't need it and they are exhausted already because terrorising Mama Bear all morning is hard work. And then sometimes they love it. I find it helps calm them down because they are too and of course hate nap time. If like me you sing your little ones to sleep, ask yourself, would you still be inclined to sing a sweet lullaby to your little darling if you knew what the origin of the lullaby was? Now, telling apart history and urban myths can be difficult at the best of times, so it's hard to know what's even historically verifiable, but bear in mind how cartoons have changed over the years. More and more kids today watch educational as well as entertaining cartoons, and now and then they may watch the cartoons I grew up watching, but the cartoons I grew up with now have a disclaimer at the beginning. Take Warner Brothers for example. Their disclaimer says, "The cartoons you are about to see are products of their time. They depict some of the ethnic and racial prejudice that were commonplace in American society. These depictions were wrong then and are wrong today. While the following does not represent the Warner Brothers views of today's society, these cartoons are being presented as they were originally created, because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed." Did you get all that? Did I lose your attention? Because I don't know many children that would stop and read a disclaimer before they watch a cartoon, or would even understand what that disclaimer meant. Newer cartoons and newer live-action remakes are held to a higher standard for inclusivity, and rightly so. So you see, it's not hard to think that something as simple as a little nursery rhyme or a lullaby might have been something atrocious in a previous life, and through the years has been twisted and bent into something more clean cut, because God forbid you actually know what you're singing to your child. But before we get into any one particular lullaby, because I may have to cover this over several episodes, let's look into the word lullaby, because even that has a creepy origin. As mentioned on Wikipedia, folk etymology derives lullaby from Lilith Abai, Hebrew for Lilith be gone. In the Jewish tradition, Lilith was a demon who was believed to steal children's souls in the night. To guard against Lilith, Jewish mothers would hang 4 amulets on nursery walls with an inscription Lilith Abai, Lilith be gone. Now isn't that just lovely? Studies conducted found that gentle music therapy not only slowed down the heart rate of prematurely delivered infants, but it also helped them feed and sleep better, and it helped them gain weight and speed up their recovery. As a preemie baby mama, I am all for it. And yes, I will admit, most lullabies are just a random assortment of sweet words put together to a few easy chords. But I did say most, not all. Some of them are a living record of some of the darkest moments in history.
Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Now, if like me, you grew up with this rhyme and you remember playing in your granny's front garden, holding hands with your cousins, walking side steps in a circle until you all fell down, or something normal. But did you know the nursery rhyme is actually about the Great Plague? London was hit in 1665 and the illness wiped out over 68,500 of the city's population. The rosy referred to the hallmark symptom of the plague, the painful and very visible rash. The stench of death was so prevalent in the crowded cities that citizens filled their pockets with sweet-smelling flowers, like posies, to cover the stench of death that was everywhere. And the mention of ashes is a reference to the thousands of bodies of plague victims that were unceremoniously burnt in an attempt to prevent the spread of the disease and to clear the city of the piles of bodies of victims.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.
Don't let the catchy tune fool you. This one is even darker than I thought. The rhyme is thought to have been penned in the mid-1700s, and there are two horrendous stories behind this. Some think it was written about a Viking attack on London in the early 1000s. According to that legend, a group of Vikings under King Olaf II of Norway stormed the city and destroyed the iconic bridge. Obviously not the London Bridge we know today. However, there is much debate among scholars over whether this attack actually happened. I found it hard to get a straight answer from Google without 12 million links for Valhalla popping up. Note to self, must watch Valhalla. Despite the terrifying legend of the Viking attack, there may be more darkness behind London Bridge that is even more brutal. The real dark message behind the London Bridge nursery rhyme is actually one of human sacrifice. In the days before the bridge was constructed, it was widely believed that bodies should be buried in building foundations to prevent crumbling. Let that sink in. They believed that the bodies would add strength to the structure, and of course, the spirits of the dead would also watch over the bridge in death. All of that nasty business aside, what makes it worse is the bodies that were sacrificed, many of them were children, were rumoured to have been immured in the walls. That's a fancy word for buried alive. People were entombed in the foundations while they were still alive, and died slowly from a lack of food and water after the walls had been bricked up, and their cries for help were long since silenced. So just to remind anyone who needs reminding, or maybe this nursery rhyme wasn't part of your schoolyard games, two children would form an arch with their arms to represent the bridge. FYI, I think this song is the reason I always mistook Tower Bridge for London Bridge, but I digress. Other friends would take turns walking under the bridge, and when the song ends, the bridge falls down. The children drop their arms, and the last child, walking under the bridge, finds themselves trapped within the walls, just like the sacrifices in the legend.
Do you know the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man, the Muffin Man? Do you know the Muffin Man who lives on Drury Lane?
Or as others knew the man, Frederick Thomas Linwood. The legend goes that Frederick, born in 1563, was a baker. You're probably thinking that the name the Muffin Man was a cute nickname they gave the local baker, the same way we do today with the ice cream man, but you would be wrong. According to the urban legend, between 1589 and 1598, Linwood was a baker and he did indeed live on Drury Lane. But unlike today's ice cream man, who ironically plays nursery rhyme music to announce his arrival in your area, the Muffin Man song was not sung to bring joy to the hearts of hungry little children, but to keep them safe. For Linwood was said to be the country's first documented serial killer. The name he would come to be known as, you guessed it, the Muffin Man, or the Drury Lane Dicer. Linwood was said to have killed 15 children by luring them with muffins on strings, and when bakers in his area were becoming more competitive to fight for customers, Linwood didn't like that, so he's said to have murdered 7 of his rival pastry chefs using sharpened wooden spoons as his weapon of choice. Children were made to learn the nursery rhyme off by heart and heed its warning, or they too might find themselves fall prey to the Muffin Man. What did you think of that story?
I don't want any more muffins.
It was so creepy because I was doing the research for this then on Monday and Tuesday, and I was like, I need to stop doing this in the dark because this is all lovely stuff and this is stuff I sing the kids to sleep. And I think I made a TikTok a little while ago about the Rockabye Baby.
Oh yeah.
There's another story about that. I'll cover that on a different day. There was too many. I didn't want to cover them all in one episode. But even when I was singing the words to myself, I was like, who in their right mind would actually put their baby in a cradle in a tree?
Maybe the Muffin Man didn't kill people. Maybe he was just a sound guy, handed out muffins to kids, and the parents said, if you eat them muffins, he's going to kill you. And the mom and dad like, our kids are going to get fat. Let's just like
they get them to bring the muffins home.
No, they're just like, don't eat the muffins. They're bad for you. They're bad for your teeth. They're bad for your soul. Don't eat muffins. And they just made up this thing about killing children.
Do you know what? It could be like what we do now. although then it was more financial. Now it's like, oh my God, you can't have ice cream, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. No. When the ice cream man music goes on, that actually means he has no ice cream left.
That was nobody's fault but you and your sisters for believing that.
No, we never believed that. When the ice cream man came around, we knew not to ask.
Okay. I remember when I was a kid and the ice cream man had come around and I'd go running and I'd be to my folks, give me the money, I want the ice cream. And they of course were obliged. Then the ice cream man stopped coming to our road because we were in my cul-de-sac is only 14 houses long, but you could hear the ice cream man in all the other cul-de-sacs, and for years I was like, why does he never come here? And I think I asked my mum and dad when I was like a young teenager. I was like, oh, one of the neighbours told him not to come anymore because there was a diabetic on the road. And I was like, who's the diabetic? I was like, I'm not telling you. So I don't know if there was an actual diabetic on the road. Or
every parent was probably telling their kid the same thing. And every parent's kind of relying on a different parent to be like, okay, you take the blame if she asks. Like, if she really starts to grill me for answers. Here,
little Johnny, carry around this little insulin pen. If anybody asks, just smile and nod. Don't use it.
No. The London Bridge one really creeped me out though.
I thought it might, given that children died.
But you know what though, I think it's the same in the 15, 16, 17, 1800s. All these things, remember we covered the episode in Edinburgh for the catacombs, and they talked about one of the owners of...
Is it called the catacombs in...
I don't think so.
Catacombs is France.
Edinburgh Vaults, sorry.
Edinburgh Vaults, yeah.
It depends on who's telling the story.
Catacombs in France, but in Scotland it's the catacombs. No, edit that out, that was horrific.
That's terrible, I'm leaving it in.
Catacomb.
The tour groups was moving a plank of wood that was in the ceiling, and a little shoe fell down, and then they ended up finding out that there were stories behind it. You could pay something like £7 for a year's worth of labour from a kid, and all these Muffin Man stories, and the London Bridge, and kids being sacrificed. I'm not being funny. I know a lot of people probably think I believe in absolutely everything, but it's not that far-fetched to think that that's how badly kids were treated. Like, my mum and dad used to be really honest with us, and yeah, we had it hard, but they were like, now listen, we let you watch Mary Poppins just so that you know that you're not a chimney sweep. You don't have it that bad. Nobody's shoving you down a chimney with a chimney brush. And you're not...
My first film where that was kind of like drawn home was Oliver Twist.
Yeah. You don't have it that bad. Kids before... in the 80s, it's not that we had it bad. We were just... I think when your parents said yes to ice cream all the time, it was the equivalent to my parents saying yes to popcorn. Anything that will get you out of the house and out of my hair. If you want ice cream, go have ice cream, but you're not to eat it in this house I just hoovered. You want popcorn? Go have popcorn, but go play out in the road or go play out in the garden. So kids in the 80s were we were loved from afar.
I was going to say, yeah.
Whereas kids in the 15s and up to the 18 and 1900s, Titanic is, he's fine.
He wants to be part of the show.
He does. Do you remember that scene in Titanic when she looks over and she sees a woman with her kid and the kid's kind of slouched and she's totally bored, and the mom's sit up, and she puts her hand to her back and gets her to sit up straight and her head up and flatten out. So I think in the late 1800s, early 1900s, kids were just treated as young adults as long as you were an upper class kind of person.
Yeah.
I did find out, because I didn't know. This is my true crime fanatic brain that clicked in. I was just the first documented serial killer is apparently who the Muffin Man was. Now, spoiler alert, he wasn't. But I couldn't figure out who was. So I went down a little rabbit hole and I was looking into it. God forbid if the FBI ever look at my Google search history. It was just
I don't use your computer anymore.
So it was either George Byrne. However, he killed 7 English men, but he himself was Scottish. So I think that's why he wasn't actually considered the first documented English serial killer.
He was just a rebel.
Now, Mary Ann Cotton, I would love to get into her mind. She was hung in 1873 for 21 murders, including 11 of her 13 children, 3 of her 4 husbands, her 4th husband's son, a lover, and her mother, according to Huffington Post. So as far as I know, she was the first serial killer documented in England.
I'll have a character for her, or an actor for her.
Kathy Bates.
No,
Why?
it's Kathy Bates.
Okay.
Because I get to say it, that's why.
But I'm wondering, is it because they're like, no, the first documented serial killer can't be a woman? No, a woman couldn't do that. And I'm like, do you realise that's why she got away with it? Like, I'm not saying she got away with it. Obviously, she was hung. But it was 21 murders later. She clearly got away with it for a long, long time.
She got away with 20 of them.
Yeah, because she was a woman, and like nobody would assume. Now I did look into it as well. The likelihood, I'm debunking the whole thing now. The likelihood of the Muffin Man living on Drury Lane is unlikely because the timeline doesn't match up, because Drury Lane was quite an affluential area when
And
this...
the affluential people didn't eat muffins. Is that what you're going to tell me?
No, but it would be people like aristocrats who actually lived there. There weren't any businesses there. There were just
You're
big
saying
houses.
it wrong. It's aristocrats.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
And everybody wants to be a cat because the cat's the only cat that
Is that
knows
the
where
one
it's
with
at.
the drunken duck that
No.
you said reminds you of me whenever I get a little bit drunk?
It's Thomas O'Malley you're thinking of.
Is that...
The uncle.
Is he not in...
No, you're thinking of the uncle.
Aristocrats?
The uncle.
Uncle Duck.
Yeah.
That's probably not his name.
Thomas O'Malley is one of the cats. He's the...
You couldn't have answered that any faster.
He's the alley cat.
I know the cast. I know all the actors. I know all the voices. Yeah, but apparently the Drury Lane became, and this is, I'm quoting from another website here, I'm not quoting this myself, it became the slums around about the 1800s, 1900s, so the timelines don't match up, and I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't read that, but I don't think it would be right to be like, I tell creepy stories. It doesn't mean they have to be completely factual. I mean, how many Hookman stories have been circulating, and urban legends, and you know, just stories that just get what is the thing where they snowballed? A good story is a good story, but unfortunately I did read into that one, and I was just kind of like, oh, I wish I hadn't. I wish I would have been like, oh my god, the Boogeyman or the Muffin Man.
Do you want a character for the Muffin Man?
Yeah.
Jack Black.
Oh my god, he'd be brilliant.
It would be a dark comedy,
because he'd be in theatre clothing,
and it would also be a musical.
I think it would be wasted if it wasn't, because he is
School of-
peaches,
Oh, yeah.
peaches.
And also a clash of School of Rock and Murder Death.
So if you got the Muffin Man meets Oliver Twist meets School of Rock is what you're going for. Maybe he didn't kill the kids. Maybe he robbed them all. He enticed them with muffins, and then he enslaved them into a band that played for all of eternity.
A musical Bill Sykes.
Yeah. What was the song where he was singing to the devil?
Tribute.
And the record. I don't know. I think I've seen the movie once, maybe.
You need my sister here. She caught all the lyrics.
Would she?
I was a big fan of Tenacious D as well.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the name of it. I didn't fall down a rabbit hole.
Oh.
No, it was a fun little rabbit hole all by itself. I'll include all the links though, because I used quite a few YouTube pages, and some of them have like little cartoons to go with them, and they're just so cool. I don't have, so it's just me and Steven. Like, we don't have anyone that writes the stories for us, so I do have to rely heavily on
But we're
other
taking
people's
applications. If you want to send your CV in, salary is not competitive.
experience. Do you know what's funny though? If I had somebody else write the stories for me, I think I'd have to
Learn
Annette
how
them
to
up.
read them.
No, but
Yeah.
like if somebody else wrote a story for me, I'd still kind of have to go over it, and I'd be like, like if it was somebody else's experience, I would totally read it verbatim, whatever way they write it themselves. But if somebody said, here's a story on, I don't know, Eastern State Penitentiary, I'd still be like, oh, do you know what, if I read the way you've wrote it, it's not going to sound like I've...
Yeah.
Although, do you know what, maybe I could make it work.
They'd have to write it in the tone of Annette.
Yeah, because I do see some people who are like, oh, such and such, thanks so much, listener, you've sent us in this story, and then they read off the whole story, and I'm like, I would love to have somebody else do that for me. But then I'm thinking,
but then-
no, because I love actually doing the research for some of these episodes.
I couldn't write it for you either.
Why?
Because if you read it like what I wrote it, and then you like...
Now, would you type it or would you write it? Because you have doctor
Oh
handwriting.
no, I would have to type it out.
Okay, go.
F*** you, San Diego. You might have to beep some of that out.
Yeah, yours would be bullet points, whereas I write everything down that I'm going to say in exactly the way I'm going to say it.
Oh, you do word for word. I just put in the.
But I think that's a talent that you can do.
My
that,
lovely
though.
misspelt wall behind you.
No, but that's. I think that's kind of what happens when you're like a manager. You need to be quick and decisive and effective, and write things in bullet points.
It's the engineering.
Let's be honest, it's because you were in Scouts.
Engineering education. No, it's not even the Scouts.
It is, because if you don't say things in concise, small words to kids, you lose their interest after 5 seconds.
I remember as a patrol leader, we were building a rope ladder to climb up one side of the Scout den, walk over to
the building.
Yeah, and then down. Now you're thinking of the new building. This is before that was built.
Oh, okay.
So just if you look at that building, just to the right of that,
because I was like, that has a pitched roof.
Yeah, even if the building the building might not even be there. It's a flat roof. It's basically, it was a wooden structure. It was a kind of prefab.
Yeah.
Probably the size of a large mobile home.
Okay, cool.
So we built a rope ladder. We threw the one end of the rope right over, and like, let's say eight of the team were holding the rope on one side, and one of the patrol members would go around to the front of the building and climb up the rope ladder, and then he'd hold the rope on the top of the building, and then one of the guys on the ground would then go climb up, and then there'd be 2 on the top, and
then you'd have nobody on the ground and everybody on the roof.
And that was happening. So we built the rope ladder, we threw it up, we got up to and I was in control, and I was like from Tala, and I was like, stall it there, don't want you to get up, stall it, Don, will you ever just kind of, and I need you to do a bit of it. And one of my leaders just pulled me aside and said, stop saying stall it.
Why?
Just say the words you want, be concise. And it's like, John, go. John, stop.
But you're like, I do mean it. I mean stall it.
But it made much more sense because I was able to dictate what I needed the guys to do within that.
Colloquialisms don't allow for good communication.
No, but everybody that was there spoke colloquialisms with the big fancy
Talanese,
yeah.
No, was it Talladega?
You've gone off
California, sorry.
California.
That's because you were watching Cundine with me earlier, and I was trying to remember what that Irish reality TV show.
All our listeners that I was watching Cundine with me.
Hang on, listen. There's nothing wrong with munchy TV. There's nothing wrong with something that does not require any brain power whatsoever, and also watching other people make fools of themselves. Although that show, I swear, this is totally off topic for us. There's shows like that where you're just kind of like, do you know you're being recorded? Like, you and I have to be so careful, and I have to stop trying to edit at night time because I'm falling asleep and I'm afraid that I'm going to end up leaving mistakes in. But
I've been watching what do you call that one? It's over now. All of the
yacht thing.
Sail away.
Below Deck.
I've watched all of the motorboat Below Deck, and I've watched all of the sailing yacht Below Deck. That's on Netflix. And I just put that on in the background because there's nothing better when you're cooking than listen to other people having whinge.
I swear to God. But that's why I'm like, do you know you're being recorded? Because when I'm editing, I have to be so careful that I don't fall asleep in the middle of it. And that, little odd swear words that we let out. It's not that we don't swear. I am so worried that our kids are just going to come out with the most awful words.
Couple of fishwives.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so that the podcast is friendly for everyone and anyone to listen to, or listen to in front of their kids. The weird thing you're going to have to be careful of is like the spooky stuff. But I wouldn't want somebody to. Like, I send voices to all my friends, and every time they say a curse word in it, they're like, oh, so sorry, boys. And I'm like, I always have a headset on. Like, my kids can't hear you. If they could, I'd never be able to listen to voices. We've gone completely off topic, Stephen.
I think we should
very bad.
Come back.
Terrible. If anyone has any recommendations of any other nursery rhymes you want me to fall down the rabbit hole looking into,
do you want somebody to say Alice in Wonderland? Is that what's going on?
Do you know what, though? I did find some really cool things on the Brothers Grimm. Is that the...
That's like the original... I want to say the Disney stories, but Disney has taken these stories and Disneyfied them.
But that's what I was trying to say with these. Like, some people think, do you know what? Ring of Brown Rosie has nothing to do with the Black Plague. And I'm like, even if it didn't, it's still become a way that we remember the Black Plague. It's still become a way that we remember how devastating it was, and you can all whinge as much as you want because you had to wear a mask during COVID. Get over it. Like... The numbers were minute in comparison, but some of the Disney stories are like, How is that ever a children's story? That couldn't have been a children's story. Like, Sleeping Beauty's story is horrendous. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to cover that because it has the R word in it, and I don't like the R word. But yes, I think we'll finish up there.
Say your words.
Because I've been waffling now for ages. I was going to start this off with, okay guys, this will just be a short and sweet episode. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I will of course include the links in the show notes. And if you have any questions on this or any other episode, our socials are What's the Story Ghost on Instagram and whatsthestoryghost@gmail.com if you have any personal stories you would like to share. And those are all my words.
Exit jingle.
Exit jingle.
Bye.
It was the fact.
I did the head bubble.
Dance.
You can't do the song. They
They can't see you do the dance.
They need. If I don't do it, they can't imagine it.